Recently, a husband died, and a few weeks later, his wife died of a broken heart. So when she got to heaven, she saw her husband. She ran up to him and said, she had tears of joy in her eyes and said, "Darling, how I have missed you." The husband extends his arms, stopping her from embracing him, and says, "Whoa there, woman, our contract was only until death do us part." Whoa. I hear some applause over here. I didn't see it, so the secret's good with me. Today is National Graduation Tassel Day. Very appropriately. I've got a daughter graduating from college today. This day obviously celebrates the accomplishments of every graduate. Auditoriums and stadiums will fill with proud families and friends excited to witness all the commencement celebrations. And these days, we're even seeing kindergartners and fifth graders go through official commencements. So the graduates get to move the tassels from the right to the left, and the parents get to begin to celebrate. So let us say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated, and Joan Wagner will do the Rotary Minute for us today. Okay.
When you get the weekly Rotary newsletter, there's almost always a call for service to the club or to the community. Soulmates, the Water Project, mentoring students at Highland Park. This club puts service above self into practice on a regular basis. Today's Rotary Moment is about someone who helped the club find ways to institutionalize its service and broaden its scope, Dr. Henry Blake. Blake, a club president in 1975, had a vision to create a foundation to fulfill a major obligation of club membership by providing an avenue for community service. Henry Blake was the chief of surgery at Stormont Vale, headed the disaster team after the 1966 tornado, and constructed the first refrigerated container that moved whole blood to military combat areas in World War II. He saw the foundation's role as donating to special projects, such as we are doing at this time with the restorative justice programs at the Peace Center. Lucky DeFries, who was president in 1997 through 98, wrote, "Community service is an important part of our Rotary mission, and the Topeka Rotary Foundation affords us a unique opportunity to meet a variety of needs in our community." So today I offer a thank you to Dr. Blake and to all the Rotarians who have contributed to the well-being of so many people over the years. Thank you.
I know you won't believe this, but we don't have any guest introductions today. We have guests, but they will be introduced at a later time. This month's featured charity is Easter Seals Capper Foundation, and we hope you will give generously. Is there something I should know?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I don't play.
We're going to skip the Rotary International Toast today, and I'll tell you the truth is we just didn't get it done, but we will get that done again next week. We have some membership announcements. First of all, we have some official new members, Clint, who I don't believe are here today, Clint Patty, who is sponsored by Jim Walden, and Leo Espinoza, sponsored by Melissa Masoner. We also have 2 new member applications that have come in, and so I want to announce their names. Lois Dimmitt, who you can guess is sponsored by Larry, and James Jeffries, who is with Fidelity State Bank and sponsored by Stan Martindale. So you'll hear their names again. I have promised you board updates, and I have a couple of other things I want to share with you. First of all, our club has another opportunity to sponsor another Interact Club. And I know full well that we've been all working very hard at Highland Park. These opportunities don't come up very often, and we really did not feel like we could miss this. We now, to sponsor an Interact Club, we have to have several pieces in place. One is that there has to be a person at the school who's willing to do that. And another is that we have to have a Rotarian and a Rotary Club that's all willing to partner together. So we now have an opportunity at Topeka High, which we've kind of been looking for a while. It hasn't really come up. And we've got all those other pieces in place. And at our last meeting last week, the board approved this sponsorship simply because we couldn't miss this opportunity to help these kids. And I promise you, and the board promises you, that we will start out very slowly next year, but we will get this underway. And we're really excited to be able to help these kids. The second announcement from the board is that, as you know, it is the fiduciary responsibility of the board to take care of the budget and all of those fiduciary things. And we review that very regularly, and in reviewing the last several years, at least since 2014, we didn't go back beyond that, we have recognized, we got a little, I wouldn't say blindsided, but it was a little surprised to put this all together, but we have recognized that the Rotary International dues have increased yearly since 2014. And they made an announcement a year or two ago that they would be increasing $4 per year over a 5-year period, so we knew about that. However, you may have noticed that your dues, not meals, this is a separate conversation, but your dues have stayed the same. And if I did the math correctly, not very good at that, but Rotary International dues, at least since 2014, have increased by 22%. District has stayed the same, and the net result of this is that our club our operating funds have decreased by that same 22%. And we looked at that, it really does not pass the four-way test. It's not fair to our club. It's just not, it's not right. So, at our last board meeting, we talked about this, and the board voted unanimously to make this right. So beginning with fourth quarter billing, which I think that bill should come out mid-September, you will notice a slight increase in the dues portion. Right now, the meals will stay the same, but you'll see a little bit of an increase, and we have to hammer that out exactly how much it will be, but it won't be exorbitant, but you will notice a little increase there. We also voted that as other dues like to district or to Rotary International go up, that we will need to pass those on, and we all want to pay our way. We don't expect the club to underwrite our dues. So thank you for listening to all of that. If you have questions about it, you can talk to any of the board members. It won't be onerous, but it will be a little bit. So we will move on now to our program, and I will introduce again Joan Wagner.
Is this going to work? Aha. And it is my pleasure today to tell you why we're doing the Freedom Festival, and also to tell you a little bit about what the Freedom Festival is going to look like and what it will be. But before I get started on that, it is my pleasure to introduce Rebecca Morrissey, who serves as the principal of Topeka High School. A 35-year veteran of education, she served as teacher, coach, and administrator in the middle school, high school, and collegiate levels. She's here today to talk with us about the impact that Rotary has had on her students and how the Restorative Practices Program leads to positive shifts in school culture. So Rebecca Morrissey, principal of Topeka High.
Thank you,
Joan. Early's on time, on time's late, late's unacceptable. I was just early.
You followed the cue.
I did. She told me to follow her up. I did. She didn't tell me she was coming up twice. So that's the best excuse I got.
Excellent.
I'd just like to thank Rotary for allowing me to speak today. I'm going to do my best to stay under the time limit I've been given, but I'm pretty passionate about this. So I will do my best, and I can talk fast, but I do want you to understand what I'm saying. Throughout my years as an educator, the desire to find a disciplinary system that's truly effective has just been an ongoing challenge, and I've been through a lot of them in 35 years in the business. Restorative justice, which we now call restorative practices at the school level, is the first system that truly allowed us to hold students to very high standards behaviorally, not tolerate, but to allow us to work with students to truly change behavior, because the punitive systems I had been involved with had simply not done that effectively. In fact, I felt in my gut over the years they worked negatively. Restorative justice and restorative practices facilitate changes not only in behavior, but they also, unbeknownst to me when we started, it caused real positive shifts in school culture and school climate. Our school systems have a long history of utilizing punitive practices. We are good at detentions and suspensions and expulsions. We have criminalized school behavior at a level that is almost appalling. If you look at the documentation out there and the data, whether you like this or not, these are the numbers. You will find that the school-to-prison pipeline is very real. If you suspend a student even one time, they are twice as likely to be a high school dropout. And in addition, school discipline is applied to students of color at an alarmingly higher rate than to white students. A white student has a 1 in 20 likelihood of being suspended while they're in school. A Latino student, 1 in 14. An American Indian student, 1 in 13. And a black student, a 1 in 6 chance of being suspended. Research shows that places where restorative practices have been implemented have a reduction in school suspensions, and with due truthfulness, that's a choice. What do we really have to exclude for is a choice. So those numbers I didn't hang my hat on. But every other type of negative behavior also began to reduce. So we saw reductions in in-school suspension, reductions in students being sent to the office for chronic behavior in classrooms. Restorative justice processes teach that each participant, so our students, our teachers, their parents, and community partners like Rotary, have an important part in playing to build trust and to resolve conflict in our schools, and to apply this to not just conflict and fights. That's where I first saw the need, but to apply it across the board to behaviors that are not what we want them to be productive in society. Before coming to Topeka High, I was principal at Eisenhower. By the time I left, and I was there 5 years, we had reduced fights by 77%. My first year, 61 fights. My last year, 14. And I can tell you, we suspended in the building the first year with 430 kids, and we suspended kids on the bus, at the bus stop, until their front door, protected them door to door in the last year. We had 600 students and only 14 fights. So by reducing punity, we actually improved the behavior, which hadn't happened before. While still in its infancy at Topeka High School, and through your gracious assistance, we have now gotten a great number of our staff trained, but I'm still only at 70%. Getting them trained takes money and time that we have worked to find. Comparing data from last school year to just first semester of this year, and we are in infancy. We already have seen a 49% reduction in out-of-school suspensions, again, choice. But we've seen a 50% reduction in fights, and we are seeing decreases across the board in the same things I talked about. So all the other behaviors that we haven't changed how we respond are also reducing. At the same time, we're seeing an increase in academic performance, and I risked an ouch and let my staff come at me about 3 weeks ago and opened up the door to any negative comment they wanted to make. And even on the questions where they could weigh in on what concerned them, what we saw back loud and clear was a lot of positive when given the opening and talking about culture and climate and how it felt better to be a part of the community at Topeka High. What I most want to share with you about restorative practices comes more from observation, personal experience. I could tell stories all day and answer questions. But as the students get involved in the process, what begins to happen is we aren't just attacking or addressing the behavior, but we are truly working at getting to the root of why they are making those choices. And in many cases, they don't know different. They are behaving in a way that they've learned and that it works where they come from. And when they come into the school environment, they need to code switch. They need to figure out a different way to do it that will help them be successful. Through the process of RP practices, students have to determine how they caused harm. They have to talk through how they've harmed others and identify everyone they've harmed. They have to face the people that have been affected. They have to work with those people to actually figure out how to provide restitution. Sometimes that's emotional, and sometimes that is actually repaying or paying for something that they've damaged. And then they have to work on how they're going to rebuild relationships. Expectations for those involved, make sure that we get the behavior to change. It doesn't happen overnight, it may not happen the first time, but we begin to see pretty massive changes. Agreements are signed that include follow-up guidelines, and the process includes not only the harmed parties, but it also includes families and other support systems that the student has, and it establishes partnerships. It's truly a with and not a to. By working with all of these people and not doing it for them, we're teaching them skills that are going to help them be successful far beyond the years that they're with us. Students involved in circles and follow activities will tell you that it's not easier. In fact, it's far from. It's much easier on me and them to just suspend them, send them home, and let them come back. But it hasn't done anything, it hasn't changed anything. And I smile every time I hear a student say, and I hear it often, and I'm going to paraphrase nicely, I don't want to do that restorative circle stuff, just send me home. My favorite circle today involved two classroom teachers, and I'll just talk from the heart and cut it down. But a young man was sleeping. Instead of asking why, because sometimes as adults we start the problems, they barked at him from across the room. He responded because he'd been embarrassed in front of peers, and he storms out of the room, and on the way out, he bumped into the second teacher and knocked him sideways. I guarantee it didn't knock him over, but bumped into him. That would have been an expulsion for 186. They tried to do the circle, new people involved, it didn't go well. And I stepped up and stepped back in with two teachers not sure in a new system. One of them is my union rep. And I walked them back through the process, all the prep. I prepped to the student, ran the circle, it took an hour and a half, and by the time we were done, it was an amazing process. And what both sides heard was the why, and both sides had felt disrespected, and they were able to repair their relationship. The student even returned to class, and he participated in a full class circle, all but an apology, and we have students who do step back in and apologize for things. But he sat and listened to how what had happened and what he had done and the teachers had affected the other people in the classroom. It was powerful, time-consuming, but well worth it. At the same time, teachers hear about all these types of things and how things are being perceived in schools. They then step forward and begin to implement the processes themselves. One of the two teachers has a student at school, female, dealing with sexual harassment. Typically, we try to just change the behaviors away from the victim, and the victim doesn't have a voice. This young lady needed a voice, and she's given me permission to share her story. She sat in the room, she'd had prior issues with this type of thing, and some of it was her learning to have a voice and to stand her ground. And through the circle process and the preparation with both of the mothers in the room with the two students, she had a voice, he had a voice, and facing and hearing how she felt drew boundaries and helped him understand how in the future to not just assume things were okay. It was powerful again. I can tell you that that teacher, his family, his daughter, are some of the biggest advocates I now have for this process and how it truly changes behavior, and how it gives voices to people who have been on the other side of this. And when you do something wrong and you face your victims, it's powerful for both parties. I have so many examples I could share. Please catch me because I'm sure I'm out of time. This program is still, as I said, in its infancy. We still have much to accomplish. But the last 2 years that Rotary has been supporting the Restorative Circles training that we have done, we've witnessed very positive shifts in culture and climate. We're beginning to see a ripple effect. The biggest criticism I deal with constantly is people think that restorative practice is a little warm fuzzy, that we really don't do anything, we just let you behave how you want. It's not true. You know me at all. I do not have a reputation of being someone who's a warm fuzzy. A student once described me as, Miss Morrissey smiles, she loves kids, but boy, she don't play. I don't. But this lets me truly discipline from a place of love, because when you discipline from anger, it's abuse. And if we're going to change behavior, we really have to do it in a manner that is caring and nurturing, and the kids know we love them. I never kicked my own children out of the house when they fought with each other. I set them away and thought it would come back and be fixed. I want to thank each of you for your support in preparing the next generation with skills to foster peace, to truly repair harm and things that they've done. You are having a wonderfully positive impact, and I thank you for that. Thank you for your time.
While Carol is coming up,
I just want to say that it was important as we start asking you to give money, volunteer, and do all of these things in a hot July sun to know where the money's going and why Rotary makes a difference in this community. Carol Wheeler.
We have to go back. We're there. Oh, what there we Okay, thank you. How many of you know what City Spin is? Just a few. City Spin is a wonderful website that tells you about events taking place in Topeka. I highly recommend you go and check it out. Anytime you want to know what to do because you're bored some evening, it tells you all about the events and any of the information you need to know. So obviously, Rotary has the Freedom Festival on City Spin. And I want to thank Joan because Joan loaded in all the information, got us up and running with it, and it really is a fantastic website that will answer all your questions about the event. It talks about what it is, who it's sponsored by, who our sponsors are, and by the way, Cap Journal, a big thank you to them because they're our primary sponsor, and Joan will be telling you about others later. And then it gives you the whole rundown on the schedule for the day, and I did that a couple of weeks ago for you, but I just want to summarize it very quickly. We're going to start with a march. You'll hear more about that from Kathleen in a minute. From Brown v. Board, that starts at gathering at about 11:30. And then from 12 to 4, there's going to be paddling on the Kansas River and a pop-up park by Overland Station. And this is, by the way, on the poster on your tables. From 1 to 4:30, we've got a lot of activities for kids and families to include storytellers and games. Parks and Rec is going to be there doing some kind of old-time outside games on the grass, so it's really going to be a lot of fun. And we'll also have military hardware displayed, etc. There'll be face painting and sidewalk art and so forth. And then from 2 to 10:30, Voices of Freedom is a free outdoor concert with a number of different bands that are listed on the poster that you've seen there. And you got to find some music you like there because it's very diverse. We have everything from bluegrass and gospel to classic rock. So hopefully you'll find something you want to see. Selling beer the whole time, well, most of it, not the whole time, but pretty much. And food trucks will be there. So no excuses. Beer, food, and lots of activities. Everything you want to know on City Spin, and the website is on the poster. With that, I'll have Kathleen Marker come up and talk about the march.
It's safe to say we're not going to have beer at the march in the morning. Everywhere else, but we will not have beer at the march. So I'm going to just very quickly tell you the who, the why, and the where. And you'll see on your tables there are 2 sheets of paper, but this one with the Freedom Festival in the middle has the map on the back of it, so you might want to take a look at that. So the march, the who, is everyone in Topeka. So we want to bring out a very large crowd of folks able to walk. Now you're saying, oh, I might not be able to walk that far. It's about 1.4 miles. Don't worry about walking the whole way. We will have a bus route that you'll be able to at the different stops that we have. So yeah, this is a little too much for me. Maybe it's too hot. Maybe you're going to have your grandchildren with you. You can hop on the bus and get to the destination. So the easiest thing to do is look at the map. You can pick up the bus to get down to Brown v. Board because there'll be very limited parking at Brown v. Board. There will be activities for kids before the march starts, that 30 minutes before. We'll be starting at about 11:30 for the activities. We will have some singing there by some wonderful kids who are from Williams Magnet School who will be kicking us off with their singing. Some very short presentations. And why are we marching? Well, we want you to bring a sign. We want you to stand up for your beliefs. We will have Boy Scouts. We will have Girl Scouts. We will have activists. Anyone who feels like they want to celebrate not only the history of Topeka, but celebrate the future for the children in our community as well. So we really would like to see you there. So again, the march actually starts at noon, and we will have several different places you'll see on the map where we'll be stopping. You'll get some historical information. What we will have is we will have lots of water. So don't worry about having to lug a lot of water with you. We'll have places for you to get water at the different stops. If you feel like it's too far to walk, you'll have a place that you can stop and grab the bus and get on to the next stop, or go to the end where all the activities are going to be happening at 1 o'clock. So any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you after the meeting, but we hope to get you all to the march as well. See you then. And I think Carol's going to come up and talk now.
Hello, I'm Carol Bradbury. I am the committee chair for the arts portion of the Freedom Festival. And as we met, our committee met, we wondered how we as Rotarians could prepare for the next generation of leaders. Well, Carl Jung talks about two paths we take in life. The first half, we embark on our own hero's journey and we discover the gifts that we've been given along the way. And in the second half, we bring back the boon, the gifts we've discovered, and we share them with our community. This sounds like Rotarians to me. And I'm really proud to be a Rotarian and be of service with the rest of you in this project. As we've heard from Principal Morrissey, the big community project we've been involved with in supporting a downtown Rotary is the teaching and practice of conflict resolution and teaching how to take personal responsibility for behaviors. Our arts committee wanted to build on that momentum by giving students at Topeka High School an opportunity to practice expressing their freedom. We're fortunate to have Dennis Etzel, Jr. Dennis. He's a professor and poet at Washburn University as part of our committee. He's been working with the students to empower their voices, and he will share some of that journey with you in a few minutes. And although we don't have a student arts component to, you have another slide? Next slide. Yeah. We don't have an student arts component to the project. We did find another way to turn up the volume of the students' collective voice by creating a graphic installation of their words. You'll see the installation the day of the festival on windows directly across from the courtroom where the Brown versus Board of Education case was decided. This installation, we believe, continues the conversation on equity that began in Topeka in 1954. But before we hear from Mr. Etzel, I'm honored to have one of the pioneers of freedom join us on the stage, the African-American social reformer, the abolitionist, orator, writer, and statesman. Please welcome the Honorable Frederick Douglass.
Amazing shoes to fill as I've been working on reading his autobiographies and the things that were said about this great American man. This ties in because as we're doing the Freedom Festival, we're also doing a version of it which Carol talked about very eloquently, which is expressions of freedom. And I wanted to share an excerpt, if I could, from Mr. Douglass's book, The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave. I've been frequently asked how I felt when I found myself in a free state. I've never been able to answer the questions to any satisfaction to myself. It was a moment of the highest excitement I've ever experienced. I suppose I felt as one who may have imagined the unarmed mariner to feel when he is rescued by a friendly man of war from the pursuit of a pirate. In writing to a dear friend immediately after my arrival at New York, I said I felt like one who had escaped a den of hungry lions. The state of mind, however, very soon subsided as I began to be seized with feelings of great insecurity and loneliness. I was and very soon subsided as I was again seized with feelings of great insecurity and loneliness. And I was yet liable to be taken back and subject to the tortures of slavery. This in itself was enough to damper the ardor of my enthusiasm. I was afraid to speak to anyone for fear of speaking to the wrong one and thereby falling into the hands of a money-loving kidnapper whose business it was to lie in wait for the panting fugitive as a ferocious beast in the forest lie in wait for their prey. The motto for which I adopted when I started from slavery was this: trust no man. He goes down another paragraph and says, thank heaven, I remained but a short time in this distressed situation. I was relieved from it by a humane hand of Mr. David Ruggles, whose vigilance, kindness, and perseverance I shall never forget. I am glad of an opportunity to express as far as words can the love and gratitude I bear him. Mr. Ruggles is now afflicted with blindness and is in himself in need of the same kind offices which he was once so forward in the performance of and toward others. I just feel that you and I have had a great opportunity, at my experience about 2 years here so far, to be Mr. David, Mrs. and Ms. David Ruggles and provide vigilance, kindness, and perseverance with what we're doing. And with that, I'd like to introduce a good family friend and active Topeka poet and Washburn lecturer who's been helping us and is a part of our committee, Mr. Dennis Etzel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here too. I just really it's a great honor to be part of this committee and to see what the Topeka Rotary Club is doing for Topeka. And in this upcoming Even Freedom Festival, as I visit the students even today, the committee will be going for kind of a last visit to get the students ready for reading their poetry at the Freedom Festival. And it's, I'll be going over methods of, okay, make sure that your hand isn't shaking, you know, that use both hands with the paper, you know, so little tidbits like that. But this is just really an immense opportunity for students who love creative writing, who are just already inspired by the amazing teachers at Topeka High School that I've met, and I've just think, wow, there's some great things going on in Topeka High School, and this is one of them. But that for the students to be asked, you know, what does freedom look like to you? And to write a poem about that, and then not only that, have the opportunity to go up on stage and read it to people in Topeka. It's just that this could be very life-changing and life-affirming to these students. So I don't want to say that, you know, this is really could be the maybe a turning point in many students' lives. As poetry for me, that's how I had found my voice. In other words, we're giving students of their own voice to have. I also wanted to read one of their poems. I just wanted to also say, I visited 3 of the classes and talked about poetry and went over like, oh, how can we write a metaphor, right? Like even thinking of freedom. You know, so really setting the standards low at first and then raising them high. So going through a lot of the process of writing poetry, and I was just so glad to be a part of being able to do that. So this is like one of the poems that one of the students will be reading. Freedom is a lone bicycle stripped of a rider. It bounces as it bumps and bounds down the road. Freedom is a box of wrenches. It can give you some leverage. Freedom is a bottle of water. Its contents spill as it is knocked over by a curious dog. Freedom is a conjurer. It pulls rabbits out of its hat for anyone willing to watch. Freedom is a file cabinet filled with teeth, a perfect place to hide more teeth. Freedom is a bulldozer singing as it knocks down its victim. Freedom is an ice cube stuck down the back of an unwitting child. Freedom is a squishy peach left on the concrete, crawling with flies as it festers in the sun. Freedom is a can of green beans, softened and dull, but useful in soup. Freedom is a taxidermied pufferfish, brittle and appalling yet strangely charming. Freedom is a helium balloon floating in the corner, filling with air and sinking more each day. But most of all, freedom is an action figure, stuck in the sandbox, still, stiff, poised at duty. I think this is really just a great complex poem about, you know, what freedom means, and I just really love it, and as well as all of the poems that you'll be able to hear at the Freedom Festival. I'm really excited about that, what they'll be able to read. So thank you so much.
Just wanted to give you a glimpse of the music that you'll be hearing. The opening act is going to be a 12-piece cornet band. Now, I like cornets because I played the cornet in band in high school. And this is the Kaw Valley Band, cornet band, and they're going to be playing Civil War music. What we're trying to do, and I hope what you've heard throughout the day, is to link some of our thematic material in with what people are going to do. So we have reenactments of an activity that occurred pre-Civil War, and you'll see territorial music and Civil War era music being played in between those two reenactments. Then we're going to move to a brand new band, Mystic Wind, and they do a little jazz and they do a little rock and roll and a little bit of just popular stuff. And then you're going to go to Donkey Show. I put it out on my Facebook and said, what bands in Topeka do you want to hear from? And 7 different people said the Donkey Show. So it's a kind of bluegrassy thing with Stuart Yoho and a bunch of his friends, and they'll be just having a good time. Followed by Knucklehead Jones, and they are doing a great deal for us in terms of a very generous contribution in kind, and we're not paying them very much money, but they draw huge audiences in Topeka. So if you're a rock and roll fan, you're going to love Knucklehead Jones. And followed by Teresa McClendon. She's from Kansas City. She sang last year in one of the pocket parks, and she's bringing a group of people to back her up, and she'll have a 5-piece band. And it's going to be gospel music and freedom songs, and what couldn't be more appropriate for the songs of the civil rights movement and all that was going on in that. So she'll be the lead-in and the opening for Kelly Hunt, who was with us last year. So that's the lineup for the festival. I want to talk just a little bit about the foundation and where the money that we raise goes. Last year we raised $32,500 from the community. This year we have 3 gifts totaling $10,000 that are not going to be renewed for a variety of reasons, and there is no raffle. Last year we raised money from the Freedom Festival and from the raffle. Our fundraising for 2018 is underway, and many of you in this room have dug deep and have contributed generously. I hope you can see the logos that are up there. Capital Federal Foundation, again, is a sponsor. Federal Home Loan Bank Topeka is an event sponsor. And of course, the Topeka Capital Journal is our presenting sponsor. They're giving us a total of about $15,000 in cash and advertising. And their support makes this festival work, as well as Federal Home Loan Bank, Capital Federal Foundation, our own Stan Martindale with Topeka Electric Motors. And then we have a number of entertainment sponsors. Core First Bank, Central National Bank just came through yesterday. They're not up here. Wolf's Camera, Clayton Financial, Stormont Vale Health, Security Benefit, and then Larry Dimmitt, Gordon Lansford, Betty Morris, and Grant Glenn are each entertainment sponsors and are giving us cash. And they did that last year as well. So altogether, we have $21,500 in cash, gifts of $1,000 or more that have been contributed to date. Club members have contributed $2,955, and Linda, you told me today you got another $600. So we're asking you to think about how we're going to make the money for the foundation to do the things that we want to do. 3 years ago, the board decided that rather than doing a little here and a little there, they wanted to fund one big project and make a difference. I hope you believe from listening to Rebecca Morrissey today that your contribution to the Peace and Justice Center is making a difference with those students at Topeka High School. And I'm convinced that it does. So to be able to keep going forward with that, we're going to have to find some way to replace that raffle money. I'm giving you a lot of numbers and I apologize. We had to replace $16,728.32. That was how much we made on the raffle last year. And we made over $17,000 on the Freedom Festival itself. So you can do the math for yourself. To all of you that have been out helping raise this money, raise your hands. I want to thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You have done a great job. We have some pretty nice in-kind coming in from Hy-Vee, which is providing all the VIP food, from Great Life, which is providing free mini golf certificates to the kids that march, and to AMR that'll be protecting our health, and also Topeka Metro that's providing that bus, and KSNT is doing some TV spots for us this year, and I think we're going to add Kansas Public Radio also as another in-kind sponsor. So that's kind of the status of where we are. The raffle netted 16.7. Let me see if I can get this thing works. You can see it. And the festival netted 17,000. So we're inviting you today to become a Henry Blake Fellow. If you contribute in 5 years, $500, you're going to get a snazzy little pin like the Henry Blake pin. And I think they've dusted them off, right, Linda? I found them in the recesses of the Rotary office. I'm going to be a Henry Blake Fellow this year. Grace has already done that. Many of you in this room are already doing that. I would just invite you to keep it going. Finally, it's 1 o'clock and it's time to go, but I want Sue Bullock to stand up. Sue is doing the volunteer recruitment. Hey. So when you see her coming, do not run. You want to say anything just real quick?
Are you kidding? I'm a Bullock.
Well, come on up.
The good news is there'll
We
be...
got just a short second.
I'm easy.
All right.
And fast. And fast. And sober. Hi there. I'm just writing down in my mind every single person who's here. I wanted to take a minute because as I sat here listening to this program, my initial humorous comment was, boy, are we knee-deep in the Rotary Kool-Aid today, right? We've all taken our time, our effort, our talent, and our treasures to try to make the world a better place. And of all the groups I belong to, this is really the only group where I really believe every single person has an oar in the water. I think most of us find that we are the workhorses in the other groups that we belong to. Listening to Kathleen talk about the march made me want to encourage you to reach out and invite people who are underrepresented. I think as Rotarians, it's our job to cross the street to people who need us. So if you know somebody who is new to town, who is poor, who needs a job, who might benefit from coming to this event, please invite them to volunteer and then stay for the event. Let's give these people a reason to be involved. Let's think about if there are students from Topeka High that we want to recruit to be involved, who are coming back as seniors to be in our Interact class. My executive core value says if we're going to do all of this work, let's do it strategically for the good of our town. So I ask you to walk out of here today and make a little note, Put it in your little visor, because next week I'm going to ask for your note. Check, there's a test next week. I would like the name and the contact information of one person that Rotary needs that will help us, and one person that needs Rotary, that we can reach out and help them. Fair enough? Fair enough. Fair. Have a great day.
I don't know about you, but today especially, I am so proud to be a Rotarian and what we're going to do for this community. And with all of Rebecca's comments, my goodness, we are making a difference and we need to keep it up. So thank you for all that you do. Next, I do have a speaker book and I want to make sure. Dear Dumb Diary gets signed by our speakers today. We'll give that to Ross Elementary. And next week we will be back here in the Emerald Ballroom, and our program will be, it's going to be really cool. If you remember last year we did the Rotary Youth Exchange kids who came and talked to us. It was phenomenal, and so we're going to do that again with different kids, and also we have some Paul Harris Fellows to award. So really hope you'll be able to come next week. So let's stand and close with the four-way test plus one. Other things we think, say, or do.
Is it very all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And will it be fun?